Mikel Arteta once again proves that he is a top coach, and this time he beats Bayern. Not only because of set pieces, but overall, having a clear game plan. Arsenal initially ceded possession to Bayern and defended in a mid-low 4-4-2 block. Moreover, the fullbacks often stayed in very wide positions. As we can see in this screenshot, the right back plays very wide, while one of the defensive midfielders shifts into his zone to cover the space in case of runs or crosses. In Arsenal's structure, in Arteta's system, it is the fullbacks who are responsible for the wingers. But even though Arsenal completely ceded possession to Bayern in the opening minutes, they still tried to transition from a mid-block to a high press, only looking for triggers. Like in this situation, where it's clear that there is nowhere to pass further. This allows them to direct the press, with Merino able to initiate pressing and then further shut down Bayern. Also, almost the entire game, Saliba tracked Kane, following him from his own penalty area to the opponents. Arsenal tried to play compactly in midfield, forcing opponents to go through the flanks and closing down the player on the wing. Look at how many Arsenal players came over to the flank. Around 5, the left back, center back, winger, central striker, and a defensive midfielder. Everyone was there. Breaking out from such a flank was quite difficult for Bayern, and creating anything there was hard. Additionally, even near this zone of the ball, as we can see in this screenshot, there was another right center back, another defensive midfielder, and an attacking midfielder ready to be first on the ball if needed, to help or cover. We also don't see the Arsenal right back in this screenshot because he is positioned wide against the Bayern winger, and Saka is marking man-to-man against a Bayern player. And we see that the possibility to progress down the flank is simply closed. There are so many Arsenal players there, but when the ball was played back, there were moments when the Bayern player, not being closed down in time, could lift his head. Consequently, a Bayern player from the center immediately ran to attack the depth, the finishing zone, the penalty area, and we see how Saka reacts to that run. He is ready to control it. But in this episode, the pass did not go there. Despite a huge percentage of possession, Bayern created little that was constructive in attack. Arsenal, on the other hand, showed interesting, even tactical episodes. For the second match in a row, Merino runs all over the pitch, opening up in absolutely different zones. In this match, we also see a moment in the 8th minute where he opens up in midfield between the lines and then plays a through pass in behind to Trossard. And apparently Kompany did not like that at all, that the central striker simply runs all over the pitch and without any pressure can receive the ball. And here Vincent Kompany immediately started tactical adjustments. He began to assign defenders to mark Merino man-to-man. Then at the 14th minute, Upamecano tries to run with Merino. It's unusual for a center back to push up that high. Therefore, when Merino drops really deep into his holding zone, Upamecano does not follow him. Because of that, there is this space, an extra 7 to 8 meters, which Merino can use to turn the attack to the other flank. If Upamecano had stayed tightly with Merino from the start of the sequence to the end, that pass would not have gone through. He would not even have allowed Merino to receive the ball. Speaking generally about Arsenal's structure, often one defensive midfielder dropped between the two center backs. In midfield, Arsenal formed a triangle that involved the two central midfielders and the striker Merino. Arteta has invented a new role for him. In this episode, no one marks Merino man-to-man. He forms a triangle in midfield. In this case, a Bayern center back steps up to cover easy, but Merino is completely free. He receives the ball calmly, first touch forward, ready to develop the attack. It's interesting that the right winger is now playing in the central striker position. The right back is playing as the right winger. These kinds of shifts and constant rotations really unsettled Bayern, especially considering that Bayern are a team that likes to play with man-oriented pressing. Those position swaps and player changes hurt Bayern's tactical shape. It's hard to reorient quickly, to pass players on to each other, and that can lead to mistakes. A little later, Kompany assigned Jonathan Tah to track Mikel Merino, running with him all over the pitch, absolutely everywhere. We can see how deep Tah even dropped to follow him. This was the main tactical response from Vincent Kompany in this match. Consequently, when it became difficult to gain such an advantage with Merino dropping deep, Arsenal started playing more long balls. Here again we see an episode in the 35th minute. Merino drops deeper, Jonathan Tah follows him all the way, and a long ball is played forward. There are a couple of interesting points here. First, the long balls were contested by the fairly tall and strong right-back Timber, who has pushed very high up the pitch. Second, most of the long balls were targeted specifically into the zone of Bayern player number 27. Visually, he is shorter than Timber. Consequently, Timber would win the vast majority of aerial duels and could immediately lay the ball off into space, as he does in this moment, where Saka is already making his run. Here, Saka had a potential chance to go one-on-one, but the defender managed to clear the ball. Long balls into this zone were repeated over and over again. This pattern, where Merino drags a tall center back with him and leaves the less tall, less physically imposing Bayern defenders at the back. That's where Timber, the athletic right back, comes in to win the majority of duels. Thanks to his physical strength and some technical skill, the ability to hold the ball. Sometimes when Merino didn't drop deep, he also shifted into this right flank zone, aiming to win aerial duels specifically against Bayern's number 27. We can see Timber ready to run into space. There were so many passes into this zone that Bayern lost the majority of aerial duels. The first goal came from a set piece. Arsenal initially positioned 5 players near the far post zone. Bayern defended with a mixed system. We can see 6 players immediately in the penalty area, 3 marking Arsenal players man-to-man, 1 covering a zone against 2 Arsenal players. And it's instantly noticeable how quickly the man markers disappear. One just stands watching, another tries to track his player, but loses him within 2 meters. The key moment, though, is Timber's run. He did a lot. First, he scored a goal, a huge plus. Second, he ran out from behind the goalkeeper and prevented him from coming out, nudging Neuer off balance, all within the rules. In this episode, he stops the goalkeeper from reaching the ball, forcing Neuer to stay on the line. Here's how it looks from another camera angle. Timber runs, trying to slip between Neuer and Merino to be first at the near post. He pushes Neuer, but it's legal. As a result, Neuer does not come out to the ball, and Timber wins the best position for himself in this episode. Bayern's problems on set pieces did not stop there. It was immediately clear that Arsenal is a team that adapts during matches, even on set plays. We can see 2 Arsenal players in the penalty area, but only 1 Bayern player marking them. The Bayern players are signaling to each other, but they are so rooted to their positions that they can't quickly adapt. They rely entirely on previous coaching instructions. In reality, 2 Arsenal players are in the penalty spot area, and only 1 has a man marking him. Merino is completely free, and he is the one who takes the shot in this episode. It's unfortunate that this initial defensive mistake didn't lead to another goal. Bayern also scored in the first half. They had a lot of possession, as I mentioned. When there was no pressure on the ball, particularly on Kimmich, the maestro on the ball, he could find excellent key passes, which he did. Here, Lewis Skelly slightly mistimed his steps and was late in controlling the depth. A Bayern player receives the ball in depth. Another key moment involves an Arsenal defender running diagonally toward the Bayern player receiving the ball. The correct movement would have been to run diagonally toward his own penalty area, which I highlighted with a green arrow. That way, he would have had a better chance to intercept the pass that reached the Bayern player. After Bayern equalized, they seemed to think all vertical passes would now succeed and began attempting them more frequently. For example, a vertical pass to Kane, who tried to control it on his chest in Arsenal's box but failed. Bayern then started trying to play more vertically, assuming Arsenal would make such mistakes regularly. But no, in the second half, as I discussed in my tactical video on Bayern's defensive problems, we see Bayern sitting very deep, lacking mobility and energy. They appear tired and often play almost with 5 defenders, sometimes forming a defensive line of 7 players. It looks quite funny, almost ridiculous, and tactically unwise. Arsenal's second goal came after pressing. In the second half, Arsenal played more freely and started pressing aggressively. In this episode, we see that the center back under pressure essentially has no options for a short pass. The ideal solution would have been a simple long ball. Instead, he tries something more elegant, playing a pass between the lines. The ball is intercepted by an Arsenal midfielder, and in just 2 passes they reach the opponent's penalty area. Calafiori delivers a cross. Here I want to focus on Bayern's number 27 and Madueke. Look at how the Bayern player operates in the finishing zones. You can't just run around. You have to try to be first to the ball. From this clip, it's clear he's not giving full effort and isn't ready to be first to the ball. You can't defend while trailing behind your opponent. Absolutely cannot. This is a critical error that allows Arsenal to score their second goal. Bayern tried to create chances and attack, but Arsenal's defense was solid, always providing support on the flanks. The defensive midfielder was always ready to cover the full back. In this episode, Olise tries to draw all Arsenal players onto himself to dribble through, but loses the ball. Merino passes to Essa, who immediately launches a long ball forward. Martinelli showed his speed and makes a touch into space. Neuer had a chance to intercept, but he didn't. Martinelli slots the ball into the empty net, making the final score 3-1 in favor of Arsenal. A fantastic match, an incredible duel between 2 top coaches and 2 of Europe's best teams. Bayern had a long winning streak, Arsenal is the strongest defense, and overall, neutral fans should be very satisfied with this game. It was very entertaining. Don't forget to like, share your thoughts on the match in the comments, and subscribe for more in-depth football analysis.